The command ship Harmony floated in the dark space between stars. Inside the metal walls, two very different groups of soldiers prepared for war. The elves stood tall and graceful, their pointed ears catching the soft blue light from the control panels. Their uniforms were white and silver, clean and perfect. The humans looked rougher. Their clothes were darker, more practical. Scars marked many of their faces. Captain Maya Collins stood at the back of the meeting room. She was average height for a human, with short brown hair and calm green eyes. Nothing about her seemed special, but when she entered the room, everyone noticed. The other humans stepped back without thinking. Even the elves glanced at her with curious looks. Commander Lirelai Starweaver watched Maya from across the room. Lirelai had lived for 300 years and fought in many battles. Her silver hair fell like water down her back. Her blue eyes missed nothing. She had never seen anything like the way people reacted to this human woman. "The enemy is taken. Position around Viridia Prime," Admiral Zara Kim said, pointing to the large screen that showed the planet below. "Zephyrian ships cover the entire system. They have 3 times our number." The Zephyrians were the enemy. They looked like giant insects made of living crystal. Their ships were black and sharp, built only for killing. For 50 years, they had been taking over peaceful worlds. They showed no mercy to anyone who stood in their way. "Our plan is simple," Admiral Kim continued. "The Elven fleet will attack from the north. Human ships will come from the south. We will crush them between us." Lirelai stepped forward. "Admiral, with respect, the Zephyrians are not fools. They know our tactics. They have fought us many times. Before. That is why we have Captain Collins," Admiral Kim said. All eyes turned to Maya. Maya had not moved since entering the room. She stood like a statue, her hands at her sides. Her breathing was so quiet that people nearby had to look closely to see if she was still alive. This silence made everyone uncomfortable. Lieutenant Kelly Martinez, Maya's communications officer, shifted nervously. She had served with Maya for 2 years, but the silence still bothered her. It felt like standing next to a sleeping volcano that might explode at any moment. "Captain Collins will lead the main attack," Admiral Kim announced. "Her methods have never failed us." An elven officer named Theron spoke up. "What methods? She has said nothing since arriving." Admiral Kim smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "That is exactly what makes her so dangerous." On the planet below, General Thaxamore studied the reports from his scouts. The Zephyrian leader was massive, even for his kind. Crystal spikes grew from his back like armor. His 4 arms moved constantly as he read the battle data. "The elves will attack with their usual grace," he told his officers. "They will try to disable our ships without destroying them. They think war should be beautiful." He made a sound like grinding glass, which was Zephyrian laughter. "We will crush them as we always do." "What about the humans?" asked his second-in-command. General Thaxamore's laughter stopped. "Which humans lead them?" "The reports say Captain Maya Collins commands their attack force." The room fell silent. General Thaxamore's crystal skin changed from dark blue to worried purple. His officers had never seen their leader show fear before. "Send word to the fleet," General Thaxamore ordered. "All ships are to prepare for immediate retreat if needed. Have our fastest ships ready to carry word to the homeworld. Sir, we outnumber them 3 to 1. Why should we fear a single human?" General Thaxamore turned his 4 eyes toward his officer. "Because that human does not fight like others. She does not shout orders or charge into battle. She becomes perfectly still. And in that stillness, she sees everything that will happen before it happens. Entire fleets have died because they could not understand her silence." Back on the Harmony, the meeting continued. The elves asked many questions about formation and timing. They wanted every detail planned perfectly. This was their way. In Elven culture, war was like a dance. Every move had to be beautiful and precise. Maya still had not spoken. She stared at the tactical display showing enemy positions. Her green eyes moved slowly across the screen, taking in every detail. Ship positions, asteroid fields, the gravity well of the planet, the movement of the moons. She saw it all. Commander Lyreley found herself watching Maya instead of the battle plans. The human woman's stillness was unlike anything an elven experience. Elves moved with flowing grace even when standing still. This human was different. She was like a piece of stone that had learned to breathe. "Captain Collins," Admiral Kim said, "do you have any changes to suggest?" Maya turned her head slightly. It was the first movement she had made in 20 minutes. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and steady. "Give me 12 ships," she said. "Fast ones." "What will you do with 12 ships against their entire fleet?" Lyreley asked. Maya looked at her for a long moment. "I will listen." The elven commander frowned. Listen to what? To what they are not saying. Before anyone could ask what that meant, Maya turned back to the display. She became perfectly still again. The room filled with uncomfortable silence. Lieutenant Martinez felt sweat on her forehead despite the cool air. She had seen Maya enter this state before battles. It never got easier to watch. The silence seemed to grow heavier with each passing. Second Doctor Amanda Foster, the ship's doctor, had been studying Maya for months. She believed Maya's brain worked differently than other humans. During these silent periods, her brain activity increased to levels that should not be possible. Admiral Kim ended the meeting. "We attack in 6 hours. All ships to battle stations." As people filed out of the room, Maya remained motionless at the display. Only Commander Lyreley stayed behind. She walked closer to the human captain. "Why do you do that?" Lyreley asked softly. Maya's eyes flicked toward her. "Do what?" "Become so still." "It frightens your own people?" Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Fear keeps them alive. When they are afraid, they pay attention. When they pay attention, they follow orders quickly. Quick orders save lives." But why the silence? Maya turned to face the elf completely. "Because noise lies. Everyone talks about what they think will happen. But the truth is, in the spaces between words, in the pause before an answer, in the way eyes move when someone is hiding something." She gestured toward the display. "Out there, the enemy thinks they know what we will do. They have prepared for the obvious attacks, but they have not prepared for the things they cannot imagine." Lyreley felt a chill run down her spine. "And you can imagine these things? I can see the fear in their communications. They are afraid of something they do not understand. That fear will make them hesitate. And in that hesitation, they will make mistakes." Maya turned back to the display. "In 3 minutes and 47 seconds, they will move their fastest ships to the rear guard. They think we might try to escape. They do not realize we never intended to run." Lyreley watched the display. Exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds later, Zephyrian ships began moving to new positions. The elven commander stared at Maya with new understanding. This was not just tactical knowledge. This was something close to magic. "How did you know?" Lyreley whispered. Maya's lips curved in a small smile. "I listened to their silence." 2 years earlier, the human ship Defiance raced through space toward Kepler Station. Captain Lisa Brooks stood on the bridge, watching the emergency signals flooding their communications. Civilian ships were trying to escape from the station, as Zephyrian attackers closed in. "How many enemy ships?" Captain Brooks asked. 43 confirmed, replied the sensor officer. "More coming through the jump gate every minute." Captain Brooks felt her stomach drop. The Defiance was alone. They had been patrolling the outer system when the attack began. By the time they could call for help, the civilians would all be dead. "We have to help them," said Lieutenant Maya Collins from her position at the tactical station. She was younger, then just 25 years old. Her brown hair was longer, tied back in a simple ponytail. She had not yet earned the scars that would mark her face in later battles. "With what?" Captain Brooks asked. "We are 1 ship against 43. It would be suicide." Maya stared at her display screen. Red dots showed enemy positions surrounding the station. Blue dots showed civilian ships trying to escape. The red dots were moving faster. "Captain," Maya said quietly, "request permission to review tactical options." Captain Brooks almost said no. What options could there be? But something in Maya's voice made her pause. The young lieutenant sounded different, calmer. Go ahead, Collins, but make it fast. Maya stood perfectly still at her station. Around her, officers shouted reports about enemy movements. Alarms buzzed. The ship shook as they pushed the engines harder, but Maya did not move. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Then 3. Collins! Captain Brooks snapped. What are you doing? Maya did not answer. Her eyes were closed now. Her breathing had become so slow and quiet that the officer next to her leaned closer to check if she was still conscious. Lieutenant Collins, respond, Captain Brooks ordered. At exactly 3 minutes and 17 seconds, Maya opened her eyes. She moved to her control panel with sudden, precise movements. Her fingers flew across the controls. Change course to heading 27 Mark 4, Maya said. Her voice was completely calm despite the chaos around them. That will take us straight into their formation, the pilot protested. Do it, Maya ordered. Something in her voice made the pilot obey without thinking. Collins, what is your plan? Captain Brooks demanded. Maya's hands never stopped moving on her controls. The Zephyrians always use the same attack pattern. Their heavy ships form a wall to block escape routes. Fast ships hunt the civilians. Command ships stay in the center, protected. We know that already, Captain Brooks said. But they have a weakness, Maya continued. The command ships need constant communication with their hunters. If we break that communication, the hunters become confused. They will return to protect the command ships instead of chasing civilians. Captain Brooks looked at the tactical display. Even if that works, we cannot fight 43 ships. Maya smiled. It was a cold smile that Captain Brooks had never seen before. We do not need to fight them. We need to make them fight each other. The Defiance dove toward the enemy formation. Zephyrian ships turned to intercept them. Maya watched their movements on her screen. Fire on the communication relay, Maya ordered. Which one? The weapons officer asked. I see 12 relays. The third one from the left, not the biggest one, the one that looks least important. The weapons officer hesitated. Are you sure? The big relay would be a better target. Trust me, Maya said. The laser beam struck the small relay. It exploded in a bright flash. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Zephyrian ships began moving in confused patterns. How did you know which relay? Captain Brooks asked. I watched their communication patterns for 3 minutes, Maya explained. The small relay was sending the most signals. It was the backup coordinator. When the main relay gets overloaded, everything routes through the backup. By destroying it, we made their whole network collapse. Zephyrian ships were now firing at each other, confused about which orders to follow. Their perfect formation fell apart. Now we hit the ammunition ship, Maya said. Which ship is that? The weapons officer asked. Maya pointed to a ship that looked exactly like all the others. That one. How can you tell? It is staying furthest from the fighting. Ammunition. Ships always do that. And look at its escort pattern. 2 fighters above, 2 below, 1 behind. That is standard protection for explosive cargo. The Defiance shot the ammunition ship. The explosion was massive. It took out 6 nearby Zephyrian vessels and sent the others scattering in panic. But Maya was not finished. Now we make them think we have reinforcements. She programmed the ship's computer to send fake signals. The signals looked like a human fleet arriving through the jump gate. The Zephyrians, already confused and scared, believed the signals were real. Retreat! Retreat! Came the panicked calls on Zephyrian radio channels. The enemy fleet fled the system. Not a single civilian ship was lost. Captain Brooks stared at Maya in amazement. How did you do that? Maya sat down heavily in her chair. She was shaking now, exhausted. I do not know, she admitted. During those 3 minutes, I could see everything. Every ship movement, every communication pattern, every weakness. It was like watching a recording of something that had already happened. Dr. Foster ran medical scans on Maya after the battle. The results were disturbing. Maya's brain had been operating at impossible levels during her silent period. The activity was so intense it should have caused permanent damage. What you did should not be possible for a human brain, Dr. Foster told her. But it worked, Maya replied. This time, but I do not know what will happen if you do it again. Word of the battle spread quickly through human and Zephyrian space. The humans called it the Miracle of Kepler Station. Maya was promoted and given command of her own ship, but the Zephyrians had a different name for what happened. They called it the day the Silent Death was born. General Taxmore had been a young officer then, commanding one of the escort ships. He saw the battle from the enemy's side. He watched his fleet fall apart because of one human who stood perfectly still for 3 minutes. She did not shout orders like other humans, he later told his superiors. She did not rush into battle. She became quiet as space itself. And in that quiet, she saw our defeat before we even knew we were losing. The Zephyrian High Command did not believe the reports at first. How could one silent human destroy an entire fleet? But more battles followed. Every time Maya Collins commanded human forces, the same thing happened. She would stand still for minutes at a time. Then she would give orders that seemed impossible but always worked. The Zephyrians began studying recordings of Maya's battles. They tried to understand her methods. But how do you study silence? How do you prepare for an enemy who sees the future? Fear spread through Zephyrian ranks. Soldiers who had never known defeat began to worry. They started calling her the Quiet Death because she brought destruction without noise or warning. Some Zephyrian commanders refused to fight if they heard Maya Collins was leading the enemy forces. Others demanded extra ships before engaging her. Fear became a weapon more powerful than any gun. Captain Brooks was promoted to admiral after Kepler Station. She studied Maya's methods for 2 years but never fully understood them. It is not normal tactical thinking, she explained to other officers. Maya does not just plan moves and counter-moves. She becomes perfectly still and somehow sees the entire battle before it happens. The silence is not her thinking. It is her listening. Listening to what? They asked. To something the rest of us cannot hear. Maya never talked about what happened during her silent periods. When asked, she would only say, "I listen to what the enemy is not saying." But Dr. Foster noticed troubling changes in Maya over time. After each battle, she became a little more distant from other people. She smiled less. She seemed to have trouble connecting with emotions that came naturally to other humans. The ability is burning out parts of her brain, Dr. Foster reported privately to Admiral Brooks. Each time she uses it, she loses a little more of her humanity. Should we stop her? Admiral Brooks asked. Dr. Foster was quiet for a long moment. How many people has she saved? How many battles has she won? Can we ask her to stop knowing that others will die? They decided to let Maya choose for herself. She chose to keep fighting. By the time of the current war, Maya's reputation had spread across the galaxy. Even alien races who had never fought humans knew her name. She had become a legend, a ghost story that enemy soldiers told each other, in the dark. Commander Lyreley had heard these stories before meeting Maya. She thought they were exaggerated. Humans like to make their heroes larger than life. But seeing Maya in person changed her mind. The stories were not exaggerated. If anything, they were too small. The reality of Maya's presence was more unsettling than any tale. When she stood, still the air itself seemed to hold its breath. Now, as the combined human and elven fleet prepared for the battle at Viridia Prime, everyone wondered the same thing. Would Maya's silence be enough to defeat 3 times their number? Or had they finally found a battle that even the Quiet Death could not win? The battle began at dawn. Ship time. The elven fleet moved first, their white and silver vessels flowing through space like dancers. Commander Lyreley led them in perfect formation, each ship exactly where it should be. The elves fought with grace and precision just as they had for centuries. Lyreley watched her tactical display as her ships approached the enemy. The Zephyrians responded exactly as expected. Their black, sharp vessels formed defensive lines around the planet. It was like a chess game where both players knew each other's moves. "Begin the Starfall maneuver," Lyreley commanded. Her ships spread out in a beautiful pattern, each one firing at precise targets. Blue energy beams reached out across space, striking Zephyrian engines and weapons. The elven way was to disable, not destroy. General Taxmore watched the elven attack from his command ship. His crystal skin showed calm purple colors. He had fought the elves many times before. They always used the same elegant tactics. "Deploy. Shield Formation 7, he ordered his fleet. Zephyrian ships moved to block the elven attack. Their black hulls absorbed the blue energy beams with ease. The two fleets danced around each other for an hour. Elven ships struck with surgical precision. Zephyrian ships responded with overwhelming force. Neither side gained a clear advantage. This was exactly what General Thaxmore expected. But then his communications officer sent him a message that made his skin turn worried yellow. "Sir, human ships are requesting permission to join the battle." "Which human ships?" General Thaxmore asked, though he already feared the answer. 12 fast attack ships, led by Captain Maya Collins." The bridge fell silent. Every Zephyrian officer knew that name. General Thaxmore's skin shifted to deep purple, the color of fear. "All ships, prepare for emergency retreat," he ordered. "Quietly. Sir, we are winning," his tactical officer protested. "No," General Thaxmore said. "We were winning. Now we are about to lose everything." On the human ship Liberty, Maya stood on the bridge surrounded by her crew. She had not spoken for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Her 12 ships waited in space, engines ready, weapons charged. Lieutenant Kelly Martinez watched her captain from the communication station. The silence was getting heavier with each passing second. The other officers on the bridge kept glancing at Maya, then looking away quickly. No one wanted to disturb her. The bridge was usually full of noise during battle. Officers calling out status reports, weapons charging, engines humming. But Maya's presence seemed to absorb all sound. Even their breathing became quiet. Dr. Amanda Foster monitored Maya's vital signs from the medical station. Maya's brain activity was increasing to dangerous levels. Her heart rate had dropped to almost nothing. Her breathing was so slow it looked like she might stop entirely. "Captain," Dr. Foster said softly, "your neural activity is approaching critical levels." Maya did not respond. She stared at the tactical display showing the battle between elves and Zephyrians. Her green eyes moved back and forth, following patterns only she could see. Lieutenant Martinez felt sweat on her hands despite the cool air. She had served with Maya for 2 years, but the silence still terrified her. It was like standing next to a predator that was deciding whether to hunt. On the Elven flagship, Commander Lirelai received a message from Admiral Kim. "Human ships are ready to attack. Are you prepared to coordinate with them?" Lirelai looked at her own tactical display. The battle with the Zephyrians was at a stalemate. Neither side could break through the other's defenses. They needed something unexpected. "Tell Captain Collins she is cleared to attack," Lirelai replied, but Maya was already moving. At exactly 4 minutes and 12 seconds, she stepped forward to her command station. Her crew tensed, ready for orders. "Attack pattern Delta 7, Maya said quietly. "Follow my lead. Do not deviate from my course no matter what happens." The 12 human ships shot forward like arrows. They did not move in the graceful formations of the elves. They moved like hunting wolves, fast and unpredictable. General Thaxmore watched the human ships approach on his screen. He tried to predict their attack pattern, but the ships were moving in ways that made no sense. They seemed to be flying straight into his strongest defenses. "Target the lead ship," he ordered. "Concentrate all fire on the human commander." Hundreds of energy beams lanced out from Zephyrian ships. But Maya's ship was no longer where the beams were aimed. She had changed course at the exact moment the enemy fired, as if she knew where they would shoot before they pulled the trigger. Maya's ship dove between 2 Zephyrian cruisers. Her 11 ships followed in a tight line. The Zephyrians tried to track them, but the humans were moving too fast and too strangely. "She is heading for the command cluster," General Thaxmore's tactical officer reported. "But that is impossible. She cannot reach us through our defenses." General Thaxmore watched Maya's ship weave through his fleet. She avoided every shot, dodged every obstacle, as if she could see the future. His skin turned the deep yellow of pure terror. "She can reach us," he whispered. "She has already seen how." Maya's ship suddenly changed direction again. Instead of attacking the command ships, she shot toward a group of supply vessels that looked unimportant. Her weapons fired once, destroying a single small ship. Why did she attack that ship? "General," Thaxmore's officer asked. "It was just carrying food supplies." But General Thaxmore understood. The small ship had not been carrying food. It had been carrying the backup communication codes for the entire fleet. Maya had somehow known exactly which ship to target. Immediately, Zephyrian communications began to break down. Ships could not talk to each other properly. Orders became confused. The perfect coordination of the fleet started to fall apart. Maya struck again. This time she attacked what looked like a minor escort ship. But when it exploded, the blast took out the main sensor relay for an entire battle group. 12 Zephyrian ships suddenly became blind. Then Maya did something that terrified General Thaxmore more than anything else. She stopped her ship in the middle of the enemy fleet and became perfectly still again. For 30 seconds, Maya's ship hung motionless in space, while Zephyrian vessels fired at it from all directions. But every shot missed by inches. It was as if Maya knew exactly where each beam would go and positioned her ship in the tiny safe spaces between them. Commander Lyrelei watched this from her ship and felt her blood freeze. No one could dodge that many shots by luck. Maya was not guessing where the enemy would fire. She was calculating it with perfect accuracy. When Maya moved again, her attack was devastating. She had used those 30 seconds to identify every weakness in the Zephyrian formation. Her 11 ships followed her lead, striking at precisely the right targets in exactly the right order. The Zephyrian fleet began to collapse. Ships crashed into each other as their communications failed. Battle groups split apart as their sensors went dark. Fear spread through the ranks as soldiers realized they were fighting an enemy who could predict their every move. "How is she doing this?" General Thaxmore demanded. "How can one human see everything?" His communication officer looked up from his station with frightened eyes. "Sir, our intercepts are picking up something strange from the human ship." "What? Kind of something?" "Silence, sir. Complete radio silence. The human ship is not sending any commands to its escorts, but they are moving in perfect coordination anyway." General Thaxmore felt his heart stop beating for a moment. He understood now. Maya was not commanding her ships through radio. She had calculated their entire attack in advance, down to the second. Her ships were following a plan so detailed that they did not need new orders. The battle was already over. Maya had won it before the first shot was fired. "All ships retreat," General Thaxmore ordered. "Emergency jump to hyperspace. Leave the system immediately." "But, sir, we still outnumber them," his tactical officer protested. "Numbers mean nothing against someone who fights tomorrow's battle today," General Thaxmore replied. "We cannot defeat an enemy who has already seen our defeat." The Zephyrian fleet fled in panic. Ships scattered in all directions, desperate to escape before Maya could destroy them all. In less than an hour, the space around Viridia Prime was empty of enemy vessels. Commander Lyrelei stared at her tactical display in amazement. The elves had been fighting the Zephyrians for 50 years without achieving such a complete victory. Maya had done it in 1 hour with 12 ships. How? Lyrelei whispered to herself. On the Liberty, Maya collapsed the moment the last enemy ship disappeared. Lieutenant Martinez caught her before she hit the floor. Maya's body was shaking, her face pale with exhaustion. Dr. Foster rushed to her side with medical equipment. Maya's brain activity was slowly returning to normal levels, but the readings were troubling. The neural pathways she used for her predictions were showing signs of damage. "Captain, can you hear me?" Dr. Foster asked. Maya opened her eyes slowly. "Did we win?" "Yes," Lieutenant Martinez said. "The enemy fleet has retreated. Viridia Prime is safe." Maya smiled weakly. "Good. How long was I silent this time?" 4 minutes and 12 seconds for the first time, 30 seconds for the second. Maya nodded. She knew that each period of silence cost her something she could never get back. But looking at the faces of her crew, seeing their relief and gratitude, she knew it was worth it. The victory celebration on the Harmony was quiet. The elves drank their silver wine and spoke in soft voices about the battle. The humans gathered in small groups, sharing stories and relief. But Maya was not with them. She sat alone in her quarters, staring out the window at the stars. Her hands shook slightly as she held a cup of tea. The trembling had started after the battle and would not stop. Dr. Amanda Foster knocked on her door. "Maya, may I come in?" "Yes," Maya replied without turning from the window. Dr. Foster entered with her medical scanner. She had been studying Maya's condition for months, trying to understand how her brain could do impossible things. The answers she found were not comforting. "How do you feel?" Dr. Foster asked. Tired, Maya said. More tired than usual. Dr. Foster ran her scanner over Maya's head. The readings made her frown. Your neural activity is still elevated. It should have returned to normal by now. Maya finally turned from the window. Her green eyes looked distant, as if she was seeing something far away. It is getting harder to come back. Come back from where? From the silence. When I calculate the battle patterns, I have to go to a place where time moves differently. Usually I can return easily, but each time, that place feels more real than this one. Dr. Foster sat down across from Maya. The brain scans show extensive changes in your neural pathways. The areas responsible for emotion and social connection are becoming less active. The prediction centers are growing stronger, but at a cost. What cost? You are losing your humanity, Maya. Piece by piece, battle by battle. The ability to predict the future is burning out your ability to live in the present. Maya was quiet for a long moment. How long do I have? I do not know. Maybe years, maybe months. It depends on how often you use your abilities. And if I stop using them, then other people will die in battles you could have won. Maya turned back to the window. Not much of a choice. On the bridge, Admiral Zara Kim received urgent communications from Earth. The messages were encrypted, marked with the highest security codes. When she decoded them, her face went pale. Commander Lyralai was reviewing battle reports when Admiral Kim approached her. Commander, I need to speak with you privately. They went to the Admiral's quarters. Admiral Kim activated the privacy shields before speaking. The Zephyrian Empire is planning something desperate, Admiral Kim said. Our intelligence sources report massive fleet movements toward Earth itself. Lyralai felt her stomach drop. How? Massive? Everything they have left. Over 300 ships. They want to end this war by destroying the human homeworld. When? 2 weeks. Maybe less. Lyralai studied the star charts on Admiral Kim's desk. Our combined fleets could not stop that many ships. Even with elven reinforcements, we would be outnumbered 3-1. There is one way we might win, Admiral Kim said quietly. Lyralai already knew what she meant. Captain Collins. Her abilities have never been tested against numbers like this, and Dr. Foster says using her powers again so soon could be dangerous. How dangerous? She might not survive it. Even if she does, she might lose her mind completely. Lyralai was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the battle they had just won. Maya's silence had saved thousands of lives, but asking her to do it again knowing the cost felt wrong. What does Captain Collins say? We have not told her yet. Admiral Kim looked older than her years. How do you ask someone to sacrifice their soul for victory? Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian fleet heading toward Earth, General Thaxmore prepared his final plans. The defeat at Viridia Prime had shamed him before the High Command. They had given him one last chance to prove himself. This time, we will not underestimate the silent human, he told his officers. We will attack with such overwhelming force that even her predictions cannot save them. His second-in-command, Commander Vextar, studied the attack plans. Sir, what? If she uses her abilities again? Then we will be ready, General Thaxmore replied. I have studied recordings of all her battles. Her silence periods are getting longer. Her ships follow more complex patterns. This means her brain is working harder each time. What does that tell us? That she has limits. Every time she uses her power, it costs her more. If we force her to calculate enough variables, we can break her mind before she breaks our fleet. General Thaxmore's plan was simple but cruel. Instead of attacking with organized formations, they would attack with chaos. Hundreds of ships moving in random patterns. No coordination, no predictable tactics, just overwhelming numbers moving in ways that could not be calculated. Even the silent human cannot predict pure randomness, he said. But General Thaxmore did not know about Maya's conversation with Dr. Foster. He did not know that Maya was already losing pieces of herself with each battle. He thought he was planning to break her mind. He did not realize it was already breaking. 2 days later, Admiral Kim finally told Maya about the coming attack on Earth. Maya listened without emotion as the Admiral explained the impossible odds. 300 ships, Maya said when Admiral Kim finished. Moving in random patterns. Can you do it? Admiral Kim asked. Maya was quiet for a long time. I do not know. I have never tried to calculate that many variables at once. The silence would need to be much longer. How much longer? Maybe 10 minutes, maybe more. Dr. Foster, who had been listening, stepped forward. Maya, 10 minutes at those neural activity levels could cause permanent brain damage. Or death. And if I do nothing, Earth falls. Billions. Die! Maya stood up slowly. Her hands were still shaking, but her voice was steady. Then there is no choice. Commander Lyreley had been thinking about the coming battle for days. She understood now why the humans fought so differently than elves. Elves saw war as art, something to be conducted with grace and beauty. Humans saw war as necessity, something to be won at any cost. She found Maya in the ship's observation deck, looking out at the stars. Captain Collins, may I ask you something? Yes. Why do you do this? Why sacrifice yourself for others? Maya turned to look at the elf. Have you ever seen what happens when the Zephyrians conquer a world? No. They do not just kill soldiers. They kill everyone. Men, women, children. They erase entire civilizations because they enjoy causing fear. If my silence can stop that, then the cost is worth it. Even if the cost is your humanity? Maya smiled sadly. What good is humanity if we do not use it to protect others? Lyreley felt something shift in her understanding. She had always thought humans were chaotic and unpredictable. Now she saw that their chaos came from caring too much, not too little. There might be another way, Lyreley said. What if we could share the burden? What do you mean? Elven minds work differently than human minds. We process information in patterns like music. Maybe if I connected my mind to yours during the silence, I could help carry some of the calculation. Maya shook her head. Too dangerous. If something goes wrong, you could be damaged too. Better than watching you sacrifice yourself alone. Maya looked at Lyreley with new respect. You would risk your mind for humans you barely know? For people willing to risk everything to protect others? Yes. Dr. Foster was not happy with the plan. Mental linking between different species has never been tested. The neural patterns are completely different. But possible? Lyreley asked. Theoretically. But if the link fails during combat, both of you could be trapped in the silence forever. Maya and Lyreley looked at each other. They both knew the risks. They also knew that Earth had no other hope. We will need to practice, Maya said. Learn to synchronize our thoughts. For the next week, Maya and Lyreley worked together in the medical bay. Dr. Foster monitored their brain patterns as they attempted to link their minds. The first attempts failed completely. Human and elven thoughts were too different, but slowly they began to find common ground. Where Maya saw mathematical patterns, Lyreley heard musical harmonies. Where Lyreley felt flowing connections, Maya saw logical structures. They learned to translate between their different ways of thinking. Lieutenant Martinez watched the preparations with growing worry. She had served with Maya long enough to recognize the signs. Maya was changing, becoming more distant from her human crew. The practice sessions with Lyreley were accelerating the process. Captain, Martinez said one day, you seem different. Maya looked at her communication officer with eyes that seemed older than they had been days before. Different how? Colder. Like you are seeing us from very far away. Maya was quiet for a moment. I am sorry, Kelly. Each time I enter the silence, it becomes harder to remember what it feels like to be fully human. But I have not forgotten why I fight. Promise me something, Martinez said. Promise that after this battle you will rest. Let someone else carry the burden for a while. Maya smiled, but it was a sad smile. I promised to try. But Maya knew, even as she made the promise, that she might not survive the coming battle. Dr. Foster's scans showed that her brain was already operating at dangerous levels. Adding the stress of a mental link with an elf, plus calculating the movements of 300 enemy ships, might be more than any mind could handle. Still, when she looked out at the stars and thought about Earth's billions of people, she knew she had to try. The silence had taken much from her, but it had also given her the power to save lives. That was a trade she could accept. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, beautiful and peaceful. But around it, the largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. The Zephyrian fleet had arrived with over 300 ships, black and sharp against the stars. Admiral Zara Kim stood on the bridge of the flagship Liberty, watching the enemy formation on her tactical display. The human and elven fleets had only 97 ships. They were outnumbered more than 3-1. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Martinez announced from her communication station. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly on the controls. Captain Maya Collins and Commander Lyreley stood together at the tactical station. Dr. Foster had connected their minds with the experimental neural link. Thin wires ran from devices on their heads to a central computer that would help synchronize their thoughts. "Are you ready?" Maya asked Lyreley. The elven commander nodded. Her silver hair was pulled back, and her blue eyes were focused and calm. As ready as anyone can be for something that has never been tried before. Dr. Foster checked her medical readings one more time. "Remember, if either of you feels the link becoming unstable, break it immediately. I would rather lose the battle than lose both of your minds." Maya looked out at the approaching enemy fleet. General Thaxmore had arranged his ships in completely random patterns. No formations, no predictable movements, just chaos designed to break her ability to calculate their actions. "He thinks randomness will defeat me," Maya said quietly. "He does not understand that chaos has patterns too. They are just harder to see." Admiral Kim gave the order to begin battle. The human and elven fleets moved forward to meet the enemy. But everyone knew the real fight would happen in the minds of two women standing silently on a bridge. Maya closed her eyes and began to enter the silence. Lyreley felt the mental link activate and experienced something no elf had ever felt before. She was pulled into Maya's consciousness, into the strange place where time moved differently and all possibilities existed at once. The silence began. 1 minute passed. Maya's breathing slowed to almost nothing. Her brain activity spiked to levels that should have been impossible. Lyreley felt herself being drawn deeper into the calculation space, her elven mind struggling to keep up with the mathematical complexity. 2 minutes. The neural link between them glowed brighter on Dr. Foster's monitors. Maya was processing the movements of 300 enemy ships, calculating thousands of possible attack patterns. Lyreley helped by translating the patterns into musical harmonies that her elven mind could understand. 3 minutes. The first cracks appeared in Maya's mental defenses. The effort of calculating so many variables was enormous. But Lyreley's mind was there to support her, taking some of the burden. 4 minutes. General Thaxmore watched the human ships approach and wondered why they had not attacked yet. His fleet was ready to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. But something felt wrong. 5 minutes. Dr. Foster watched Maya's vital signs with growing alarm. Her heart rate had dropped dangerously low. Her brain was consuming energy faster than her body could supply it. "Maya, you need to end this soon," she said, but Maya could not hear her. 6 minutes. In the calculation space, Maya and Lyreley worked together to map the chaos of the enemy fleet. Maya saw the mathematical patterns, while Lyreley heard the musical, rhythms hidden in the randomness. Together they found the weak points that neither could have seen alone. 7 minutes. The strain was becoming too much. Maya felt pieces of her consciousness starting to break away, but she could see the complete battle now. Every movement, every outcome. Victory was possible, but only if she could hold on long enough to give. The orders. 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Maya opened her eyes. The orders she gave seemed impossible. She directed individual ships to specific coordinates with precision down to the meter. She told captains to fire at empty space then. Change course to positions that made no tactical sense. The commands came so fast that the communication system could barely keep up, but every human and elven captain had learned to trust Maya's silence. They followed her orders without question, even when those orders seemed crazy. The result was, unlike any battle in galactic history, the combined fleet moved like a single organism, each ship perfectly coordinated with every other ship. They slipped through gaps in the Zephyrian formation that opened and closed with split-second timing. General Thaxmore watched in horror as his random attack patterns were countered before they even began. Maya had not just predicted his ship's movements. She had predicted the movements his ships would make in response to her ship's movements, and the movements they would make in response to those movements. "Impossible," he whispered. No mind can calculate that far ahead. But Maya had not calculated alone. Lyralay's musical understanding of patterns had allowed them to process chaos as if it were symphony. Together, they had achieved something neither species could have done separately. The battle became a masterpiece of tactical precision. Human ships struck at exactly the right targets in exactly the right sequence. Elven vessels provided support with perfect timing. The Zephyrian fleet, despite its overwhelming numbers, began to fall apart, but the cost was terrible. Maya collapsed the moment she finished giving orders. Lyralay caught her before she fell, but the Elven commander was barely conscious herself. The neural link had pushed both their minds beyond safe limits. Dr. Foster rushed to their side as the battle continued. Around them, Maya's brain activity was chaotic, showing signs of severe damage. Lyralay was unconscious, her own neural patterns disrupted by the link failure. "Medical teams to the bridge," Dr. Foster called out. "Emergency neurological treatment." The battle was won, but Maya and Lyralay might not survive their victory. Lieutenant Martinez took command of the Liberty while Dr. Foster worked to save Maya's life. The Zephyrian fleet was retreating in complete disorder, their morale shattered by another impossible defeat. General Paxmore sent a final message before his ship jumped to hyperspace. "Tell the High Command that the silent human has evolved. She no longer fights alone. The galaxy now has 2 species that can see tomorrow's battles today." For 3 days, Maya lay unconscious in the medical bay. Dr. Foster worked constantly to repair the damage to her brain. The neural pathways she had used for prediction were completely burned out. The abilities that had made her legendary were gone forever. But something unexpected had happened. The parts of her brain responsible for emotion and human connection were healing. The cold distance that had been growing in her was fading away. When Maya finally woke up, the first thing she felt was genuine warmth for the people around her. Lieutenant Martinez was holding her hand. Dr. Foster was checking her vital signs with tears of relief in her eyes. For the first time in years, Maya felt completely human. "Did we win?" she asked weakly. "Yes," Martinez said. "Earth is safe. The Zephyrian fleet is scattered. The war is over. And Lyralay? She is recovering. The Elven doctors say she will be fine, but her ability to hear battle patterns is gone too." Maya smiled. "Good. She deserves to live without that burden." Dr. Foster ran comprehensive tests on Maya over the following weeks. The results were both sad and hopeful. Maya's prediction abilities were completely destroyed. She would never again be able to enter the silence and see future battles, but her humanity was returning stronger than before. "You sacrificed your greatest gift to save Earth," Dr. Foster told her. "No," Maya replied. "I traded one gift for another. The ability to see the future is powerful, but the ability to live in the present with people you care about is more valuable." Commander Lyralay visited Maya in the medical bay. The elf looked different now, more relaxed. The constant awareness of battle patterns was gone from her eyes. "I wanted to thank you," Lyralay said, "for letting me share the burden of the final battle. Thank you for helping me carry it. I could not have done it alone." "What will you do now?" "Without your abilities, I mean." Maya thought for a moment. "Teach, I think. There are young officers who need to learn tactics. Not the impossible kind I used to do, but the normal kind that keeps people alive. And the silence?" Maya smiled. "I will still use silence, but now it will be for listening to friends instead of predicting enemies." 6 months later, Maya stood in front of a class of young officers at the Galactic Defense Academy. Human and Elven students sat together learning from her experience. She taught them about strategy and tactics, about courage and sacrifice. But most importantly, she taught them about the value of stillness. Not the supernatural silence she had once used, but the natural quiet that comes from taking time to think. Before acting, before any important decision, she told her students, take a moment of silence, not to see the future, but to understand the present. Listen to what your heart tells you, not just what your mind calculates. One student raised her hand. "Professor Collins, Is it true you could once predict entire battles? Maya nodded. Yes, but I learned something more valuable than prediction. What is that? That the most important battles are not fought against enemies. They are fought for the people we love. And those battles are won not by seeing the future, but by choosing to protect others in the present moment. The war with the Zephyrian Empire was over whose strength came not F.